Right, so first topic we have to discuss about is related to El Nino. Right, so El Nino already we have covered in geography. What is El Nino phenomena and all that? Did you revise or not? What is El Nino? Unusual warming of Pacific Ocean. East Pacific or West Pacific? West Pacific, right? East Pacific. Okay, in which ocean going on? East Pacific or West Pacific? Right, you have South America. Where El Nino phenomena takes place? This area. So, East Pacific or West Pacific? What is it? East Pacific. Yeah, that's why you not have to be confused if you know something. Which part of the Pacific Ocean? Eastern part of Pacific Ocean. That's where warming is taking place. So it is expected to have economic implications. Okay, what kind of economic implications? Yeah, we know that agriculture sector of India completely depends on what? Monsoon as such. Okay, and monsoon is affected. Do not write. No need to write. Okay, everything you will get notes. Okay, otherwise, you have come to become IAS, to become clerk. Okay, if you're writing continuously. So economic implications are going to be because of the effect on what sector? Agricultural sector, right? Agriculture sector, why? Because this is the time when we show which kind of crop? Kharif crop. Okay, Kharif crop is largely dependent upon monsoon rainfall. El Nino we have studied in class, okay, in geography, that due to El Nino phenomena what happens? Amount of rainfall is less, okay, reduced as such. So we know that currently about 20% of the GDP to India or GDP of India is contributed by which sector? Agriculture, right? Roughly 40 to 50% of the employment that we generate in India generated in which sector? Agriculture sector. That means it is simple. Any effect, adverse effect on agriculture is going to have what? Adverse consequence on economy as such. Okay, so that's what economists are arguing, that if we have effect of El Nino on monsoon, we are going to have economic implications also. What kind of economic implications? So inflationary effect. If you have shortage of food, that means what will happen? Prices will increase. If anything is in short supply, what will happen? Price of everything is increasing. So what we can say? Cereals, vegetable, pulses, everything becomes costly. What rises? Inflation, food inflation. That increases what? Consumer price index, right? Similarly, if people are purchasing costly, expensive food, what we can say will happen? The money they would have spent on other things, that money would be spent to a lesser extent. So what we can say is taking place? Household purchasing power is declining as such. Third, you can think also from farmers' perspective, because farmers are suffering from less crop yield. Their income potential will also reduce. Income potential reduces. What would reduce? Consumer spending. So farmers are not able to buy stuff, and people in the urban areas also are not able to buy stuff. Why? Because simply you have the low income, less income. So RBI is saying that what is the biggest threat that India faces due to the El Nino and its adverse effect on monsoon? This term you should keep in mind. You would have studied in economy. What is this term? Stagflation. Stagflation means stagnant plus inflation. Growth rate is what? Very, very slow. And at the same time, the prices of commodities are increasing. So we have slow growth plus high inflation. Okay, that's what we're calling as stagflation. Weaker rural demand affects economy. 2027 fiscal year growth may slow to around how much percentage? GDP growth we're talking about. It would reduce further to 6.5%. And to tame inflation, what do we do? What RBI does? Increases the rate, okay, interest rate as such. So interest rate will hike. If interest rate increases, the loan that we're taking, now it is available at higher prices, higher interest rate. That means what will happen? Funding to the industries, funding to the businesses would suffer. These businesses would not be able to contribute to the economy as such, right? And that's why further what we'll see? Slow down in the economy as such. Okay, I think how businesses expand by taking loans. If the interest rate of those loans increases, what will happen? Business expansion would also suffer. If business expansion suffer, what would suffer? Employment generation potential would suffer. Okay, that means overall we'll have lesser cost. So higher borrowing cost can reduce overall investment in the economy. And this is being linked with Great Famine of 1876. Similar situation we have seen long time ago. 1876, that was British era. So currently we are witnessing El Nino for the first time after several years. That time we have El Nino that continued for several years. So imagine one year you have less rainfall, you can somehow adjust. But 2 years, 3 years, if you have continuous weak monsoon, that means continuously what would happen? Lower and lower amount of food, okay, food production, cereal production. The successive monsoon failures has devastated India that time, and also because that was British rule. The British government was not so much worrying about the food security, providing food to everyone. So what we have witnessed, a large scale death, okay, 55 to 82 lakh death as such. Severe impact on Madras and Bombay presidencies were seen here, but many areas like Telangana showed resilience that time. Telangana, that means whatever area that was that time. By what kind of system? Traditional tank system. That's why water conservation becomes very important pillar. We want to ensure that our food security is not compromised even when you have less rainfall. Currently 60% of India's farmland depends on what? Monsoon. Only 40% of India's farmland depends upon what? Artificial irrigation system. So we have to bring more and more areas under the artificial irrigation. So El Nino, warm phase of ENSO, we have discussed, weakens trade wind, promote drought resistant crop. What we can do? The problem is India, mostly the crops that we are growing is cereal crops. Cereal crops are water guzzling crop. Okay, they require a lot of water. So one thing you can do is to promote drought resistant crop. That means such crops which can grow even in low rainfall condition. So if the crops are able to grow in low rainfall condition, effect of El Nino would be seen to a minimal extent as such, right? Expand efficient irrigation. We have discussed 40-60%, that ratio we have to increase as such. Restore traditional water bodies, right? Example, in the earlier year, if you have heavy rainfall, what will happen? Water we can store in these reservoirs. In next year, if you have dry season, what you can do? Use the water stored in this reservoir for what purposes? Agriculture purposes, irrigation purposes as such. But if you are destroying all the traditional water bodies, if you have a large number of lakes, okay, you are filling up all these lakes and creating multi-storied buildings, what will happen? You have lost your potential to store water. That's why the effect of El Nino can be seen to a greater extent. A strengthening climate resilience measure, because all this El Nino, we can say, is linked with what phenomena? Climate change, global warming. So as the effect of global warming is seen to a greater extent, more such El Nino episodes we can see in future as such. So we cannot fight it in long term unless until we take which kind of measures? Climate resilient measures. Okay, we take some measures to reduce the effect or impact of global warming as such. That is the link between El Nino, monsoon, agriculture and economy of India. All of these are what? Kind of interrelated, integrated. The second topic is related to Kashmir's melting glaciers are feeding lakes that villagers know well but have not been warned about. Simply it means that in the Kashmir, in the higher reaches of Kashmir, snow is continuously melting, glaciers are continuously melting. These glaciers that melt provides water to what? Lakes as such, right? Now, if suppose global warming is taking place, the rate at which glacier melt, is it higher or lower now? If you have more warming, glaciers will melt at high rate or low rate? High rate. Okay, that means more and more water is being added in the lake. That means I am saying that, okay, for example, if you have a lake, right, and it has certain capacity to store water, right? And now rapidly glaciers are melting. That means what is going on? More and more water is being added to the lake. This extra water can lake accommodate? No, because it does not have a capacity. So what will happen? It will flow out. Lake can burst also because of the water pressure. And in the lower areas where people are living, where you have villages, what will happen to those villages? It will be simply washed away. So this exact thing is going on where? In the Kashmir region. But the problem is that villagers who are having their habitations, villages in the lower areas, they have not been warned about it. Okay, that such kind of phenomena can happen. That means our preparation against such kind of disaster is kind of lagging behind. So this is what the issue was raised recently, and it says that, like for example, which lakes we are talking about, which region? So Kashmir, you have two lakes. One is called as Gangabal, other is called as Nundkol Lake. So these two lakes are classified as what? Susceptible to GLOF. GLOF means glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, from the term itself it is clear what we have just discussed. Glacial lake outburst flood. Now see what happens when glacier is moving. What it does? It deposits lot of sediments. Lot of rocks are there, and these rocks basically keep on accumulating. And then when temperature increases, glacier melt, and within these rocks, what you find? Water that is trapped as such. If glaciers start to melt at a rapid rate, at a fast rate, what will happen? It will apply more pressure. If more pressure is applied, you have the rocks that are kind of loose. They are not very strong rocks as such. So what you can see? That the glacial lake has simply bursted out. Why bursted out? Because it is not able to store water. So this kind of flood, what do you call such flood as? Glacial lake outburst flood. That means the glacial lake has bursted out, and the water is now moving at very fast speed in the lower areas as such. So that is where we are having these two lakes, Gangabal and Nundkul. They are classified as highly susceptible. Where it is located, which region? Jammu and Kashmir, and the district is called as Gandarbal district. Gandarbal district, there is a peak called as Harmukh peak as such. Right, identified by which studies, University of Kashmir study, not very important. Residents have reported lack of official warning. Okay, when survey was conducted, the villagers stated that no such warning has been given to them by government officials that this kind of situation you may face in the future as such, right? So if suddenly you have the bursting of glaciers, what would happen? You can understand that people will get caught off guard and they will face higher disaster, greater disaster. Total, if you look at the Himalayan areas, 155 glacial lakes we have mapped as such in these areas. Ice contact lakes expanded by 26%. Ice contacted lake means those lakes which are now very close to the glaciers, okay, because glaciers are melting at rapid pace. Second, glacier thinning at 0.66 meters per year, that is because of global warming. Okay, if you look at the retreat of glacier, that has suddenly increased. Why? Due to the effect of global warming, increased temperature, atmospheric temperature and all that. So total 5 lakes are categorized as very high risk, climate change accelerating the glacier retreat and growth of lake. Imagine the area where earlier glacier ice used to stay, okay, in its solid form. That will not pose any hazard. Suddenly temperature increase, that entire ice has converted into what? In what form? Lake form, because it has melted as such. So number of such water bodies has increased in the mountainous areas. And as number of such water body has increased, the flood that we can see due to these water bodies, their probability will also increase as such, right? So that is the finding of this University of Kashmir study. Potential impact, okay, all these impacts are given, you can understand. What will happen if suddenly you have flood? What is the impact of flood? So first of all, whatever buildings you have in the area, they will get completely destroyed because water is running at very high speed in the mountainous terrain, right? Steep slope you have. Bridges, hydropower plants that you have, these infrastructure can also get damaged as such, right? 5 high risk lakes we have discussed that can threaten how many buildings? 2,700 buildings are seen to be at risk. Bridges will fall. Gandarbal, Sopian, Kulgam, all of these districts that you have in Kashmir seem to be highly vulnerable to future glacial lake outburst, flow as such or flood as such. Then preparedness gap. What is the preparedness gap? Like suppose people who are living in village areas, suppose you have studied this region and you see that there is a possibility of flood in the coming few days or coming few weeks, because it's not that suddenly in one day water level will rise by several meters. Water is continuously rising in the lake. You see that lake has filled up to its brim. Okay, any more addition of water would cause what? Flood to take place. That means what should you do? You should go and evacuate that area. You should go and warn the people. But what people are saying, that there is no establishment of any kind of siren, okay, that can tell people that flood is about to come as such or water is about to come as such. There is no early warning system in place here. No water level sensor is installed. That is also a problem, because in lake, if you install that this much is the proper depth up to which you will not have any kind of flood. If the depth or the water level increases beyond a particular height, you have possibility of flood. How do you measure that? By putting a sensor as such. Do we have any sensor? What the report says? There is no water level sensor that measures the change in water level. No community alert mechanism, no publicly announced mitigation measures. Government also have not told people that if such kind of flood occurs, what you have to do, which is the safer area, where you have to move. If such kind of communication is made, people can save their lives. Okay, property damage, infrastructure damage, that can be built again. But once life is lost, we cannot bring those people back. So that's why these kind of gap we have seen in the preparedness of the GLOF event. Okay, GLOF event we have discussed, water accumulates behind the moraine term is basically referred for the sediments. Okay, glacial move, deposit all the rocks. These deposited rocks, what is called as? What is it called as? Moraine. Okay, so moraine dam basically can store the water, and if suppose what can cause this flood? So one is the rapid melting of glaciers, that obviously is there. Apart from that, lake you have, water you have in the lake. If some else can destroy these rocks, that can also cause flood. What can destroy those rocks or move those rocks? Earthquake like event. Avalanche, that is landslides that you have, or excess water pressure. So all of these are the factors that can release massive flood and debris, okay, in the downstream areas, resulting in the loss of life and infrastructure. So climate change basically is the reason behind this entire thing, because the temperature of Kashmir itself, if you look, in last 40 years, 4 decades, how much it has increased by? Average temperature has risen by 1.4 degrees Celsius. Now it seems less, but think, when can glacier remain in solid form? Up till temperature is less than 0 degrees Celsius. So in many areas where temperature was 0 degrees Celsius, now it is how much? Let us say 1.4 degrees Celsius. So up to 0 degree it was in solid form. If it becomes 1.4, will it remain in solid form? No, it will start to melt. That's why what will happen? The possibility or probability of flood also has increased as such, right? Rapid glacial retreat, expanding glacial lake, growing slope instability. Reason also like why we are having a big threat here or more threat here, because Himalayan region is lying in which areas? Seismic zone 5. We know that that's where you have plate interaction going on. Indian plate is continuously pushing against which plate? Eurasian plate, and that's why earthquake probability is very high. Any earthquake can trigger collapse of the reservoir, collapse of the lake, and that can trigger flood as such. Plus climate change, as we have discussed, also amplifies disaster risk. So what is the way forward? First of all, whatever gaps we have discussed, you have to remove these gaps. How? Install cameras wherever you have the possibility of dam failure or lake failure. Install sensors, install weather stations. Why weather stations? Suppose already lake is up to maximum level. If heavy rainfall happens here, cloud burst happens there, what will happen? In very short period of time, the entire lake will start to flood. So if you are able to see the cloud density by the weather stations, you can predict that yes, heavy rainfall is going to take place. That means we have to take some remedial measures, evacuate the villages, okay, or warn the people, develop community-based warning system, siren-based flood alert. In mountains area, it's not that all people are living in same areas. Okay, the villages are at far distance from each other. So how would you tell from one village to other village? How would you pass the message? For that, what you need? Something that can alert the citizens at the same time over a large area. A siren-based flood alert we can put. Restrict construction in flood corridors, okay, so that damage to infrastructure can be minimized. Conduct awareness campaign in local languages and integrate scientific monitoring with local knowledge also. Right? So these are some things we can do. Third topic is related to a recent addition of Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary. You would have studied about the Ramsar sites. Yes or no? Ramsar sites, we have wetlands are put under Ramsar list. So recently a bird sanctuary from the state of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, it is called as Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary. Other name is also Surhatal. Okay, so if you look, this is the map of UP, and here in the which part? Western part of UP, eastern part of UP, near the border of Bihar. This is the location of this Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary. District wise, it is part of Balia district of Uttar Pradesh. So it is declared as why it is important, because India now has its 100th Ramsar site. Okay, so 100th Ramsar site, and every day, every year on 5th June, what do we celebrate? World Environment Day, right? So that's why, because we celebrate World Environment Day on 5th June, we that day decided to declare it to be India's 100th Ramsar site. Ramsar Convention you would have studied. Okay, Ramsar actually is the name of city in which country? Iran. And that's where we have signed Wetland Conservation Pact as such, or agreement as such. So this is considered as a major milestone as far as India is concerned. And the region is simple. What is the region? In Asia, now India has become a country with what? Highest number of Ramsar site. No other country has Ramsar site more than India in Asia. Globally, if you look, India ranks now what? What number? What rank? Third rank. Okay. Currently, highest number of Ramsar site. This is again prelims based important fact. Highest number of Ramsar site is where? UK. How much? 176. Second number, what do we have? Mexico, 144. And third, what do we have? India at 100 as such, right? So what it tells you? It tells you about the conservation commitment that India has made to the world, that whatever wetlands what we have, whatever the Ramsar site we have, will protect it, okay, ensure that its conservation is properly carried out. Whatever flora, fauna, biodiversity it support, it also is this basically protected as such. So that is the message. Now, Surhatal, we have discussed, it is in Uttar Pradesh. So how many Ramsar sites you have in Uttar Pradesh? This become the 13th Ramsar site of Uttar Pradesh. Recently, few more Ramsar sites we have added in this year, like Sekha Jheel Bird Sanctuary, Patna Bird Sanctuary. This is where confusing questions can be asked, because Patna is in which state? Which state? Bihar, capital of Bihar. But Patna Bird Sanctuary is in which state? Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so a small town you have Patna there also. So bird sanctuary question can be asked next year UPSC. Patna Bird Sanctuary located in which of the state? Most of people, if they have not studied, what they would mark? Bihar. Okay, but where it is located? Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so one of the largest number of Ramsar sites we have in Uttar Pradesh. Now coming to what are wetlands? So wetland has a very broad definition. Anything which is peatland, marsh, fence, or any kind of water bodies, either it is natural or artificial, it does not matter. Artificial means you create a dam. When you create dam, what happens? Water gets stored in reservoir. That can also be classified as wetland if it has biodiversity, you have flora, fauna and all that. Second, it can be permanent or it can be temporary. Suppose that in some area due to heavy monsoon rainfall, a lake comes into picture, and when rainfall stops, this lake dries up. In that case also we can classify them as what? Wetland. Though it is temporary, it still can be classified as wetland. Third is, no matter what kind of water it contains, it can have fresh water, like riverine areas. River water, we create a kind of lake. We have discussed Oxbow Lake, for example, we have talked about. When river meanders, sometimes this meander loops get cut off, and the lake that forms, what we call it as Oxbow Lake. What kind of water it contains? Fresh water. If you go to the coastal areas, what kind of water you have? Brackish water, saline water, that is having higher salinity, and even shallow marine water, that means sea water also. Somewhere it is creating a lake like a structure, we can call it as wetland. Wetland rules 2017, however, exclude river channels. That means any part of the water body that is part or separate part of channel itself, that cannot be classified as wetland. It is simple river ecosystem. Paddy fields. Okay, what we do in the areas where we grow paddy crops, we have to first of all fill the entire area with water. If you fill entire area with water, what you can say? That a lake has been created. But those will not consider under wetland, because this we are strictly constructing or making what purpose? Cultivation of paddy. And some artificial water body which is very small in nature, which does not support any kind of flora, which does not support any kind of animal life, those cannot be included in wetlands. But apart from that, it has a very broad definition. Now about Surhatal, as you have seen, which river, on the bank of which river Surhatal is located? Ganga river. How it is created? It is what kind of lake? Oxbow Lake. If you remember in class we have discussed that river in the plains, it moves in which fashion? This meandering pattern. And sometime due to erosion, this part keeps coming closer. And I told you that then later they will merge together. And this part of loop, what will happen to it? It will get cut off. Okay, so this lake that has formed, what will call such lake as? Oxbow Lake. So this particular lake is formed by the meandering of which river? Ganga river. So that's how question can be framed, that Surhatal or Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary is found along which of the river system, or which of the following river? Ganga river. Okay, what kind of lake it is? It is a Oxbow Lake. Whether it is a natural lake or this man-made lake, what is the answer? It is a natural lake. So that's how these kind of facts are what we have to take from the slides that you have or the content that you have. Receives water through how many channels? 3 channels, right? Expands during monsoon flood, that is obvious, because when the heavy rainfall occur, any lake, what would happen to its size? What would happen to its area? It will undergo expansion. So more number of birds also you will see coming here. Next is that it is also significant from biodiversity perspective, right? Why? Because it is part of Central Asian flyway. Central Asian flyway means like here you have Africa, right? Then you have Arabia, then you have India, and then like this. So many times birds start their journey from where? Africa. They start their journey, they fly all the way up to where? India. And from India they further go where? Which place? In the upper part you have countries like Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is part of which region? Central Asia. So this particular lake that we are discussing, it is part of which pathway? Central Asian pathway, Central Asian flyway. Flyway means a bird that begin its journey from Africa, use it as a rest stop. Okay, and then further after some time, they move to where? To the Central Asian countries. So this is the Central Asian flyway. Because in the winter, what happens? Temperature here becomes very, very less. Food availability resources becomes very less. Birds cannot survive there. So every winter, what do these birds do? Migratory bird is a term you would have heard about. What do? They come to the area where you have high temperature. So they come here, India, and they further go where? To Africa. In the summer, what do? Return back to Central Asia as such. So annually, this kind of migration pattern you would see. So that's why it is a part of Central Asian flyway. What are the birds that you will find here? Common pochard, sarus crane, bar-headed goose. Yes, some of the common birds that use this particular bird sanctuary. From terms of biodiversity is also very rich, because how many plant species you will find here? 221 plus plant species. And because it is freshwater body, you have aquatic fishes. So 65 to 66 fish species, you will find them. Habitat of vulnerable fishing cat. Right. Fishing cat is IUCN categorization you would have a study. Okay. What is the most, this highest form of categorization? Critically endangered, right? Then you have endangered. Then we have vulnerable, right? So that is how it is classified as vulnerable, the fishing cat. Important socio-ecological as well as cultural landscape for the local people also it is considered as. So that is about the biodiversity and significance of the Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary. Then we have defense investiture ceremony was conducted recently, was held recently in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Every year this ceremony is held, and the purpose of this ceremony is to confer what kind of award? Gallantry award. Gallantry award you would have studied. It is given to those people who have shown valiance, courage, okay, in the times of war or even in the times of peace as such. So ceremony was held at Rashtrapati Bhavan like every year. Total how many awards were given? 51. What kind of award? We'll discuss about that. First of all, Kirti Chakra. 15 awards were given as a Veer Chakra. 29 awards were given as a Shaurya Chakra. So 3 different type of awards were given as to recognize the courage of armed forces, Central Armed Police Forces, like for example CRPF, CISF, okay, Border Security Forces, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, Sashastra Seema Bal, or National Security Guard. All of these are termed as what kind of force? Central Armed Police Force. Armed force means what? Army, Navy and Air Force. Central Armed Police Forces, all the paramilitary forces that you have. And even from the personals of police, okay, they also are given this particular award. So these are some of the most important gallantry awards of the country. So if you take a look at overview, what is significance of gallantry awards? So they are considered as India's highest honors, right? Awarded for exceptional bravery and self-sacrifice, right? Given to military personnel and civilians. That is how question can be asked. That gallantry awards are only awarded to military personnel. True or false? That is false award. Gallantry awards can also be given to civilians if they have shown extreme degree of bravery, courage and sacrifice as such. Okay. Many times we would see news that some people were trying to save some people who are drowning. Okay. And the process of saving them, they themselves died. But they were able to save the person who actually was drowning. So it is example of what? Self-sacrifice. Example of what? Exceptional bravery as such. So they can be given award. And this entire award is basically classified into how many categories? 2 categories. Some awards are given to those people means obviously military personals, police personals or civilians who have shown bravery during what time? War time. While some awards are given to those people who have shown bravery during what time? Peace time. What is difference? Here award is given if you are fighting enemy. Okay, suppose Pakistan attacked India. In 1999 we had Kargil war, or after that also many times we have seen fire being exchanged. In that case, if someone dies or shows courage, bravery, what kind of award is given? Wartime award. Apart from that, you have peacetime award as such. Reflect India's tradition of honoring valor or courage. Right. Now, if you look at the wartime gallantry award, the highest military decoration that we have in India is what called as Paramveer Chakra. Okay, no award is higher than this as far as the gallantry award or recognizing the bravery is concerned. So, when it is given, if you have shown bravery in the presence of enemy, okay, so this is very important to remember. Paramveer Chakra cannot be given to any person who is showing courage during the time of peace, okay, who is fighting the enemies of India itself internally, okay, then they cannot be given. It is strictly reserved for those people who are fighting enemy, who are fighting the war, and then they have shown courage. Second highest in this category is which one? Paramveer. Then we have Mahavir Chakra. Then what do we have? Third highest is Veer Chakra. These are top 3 awards given to people, given to enemy army personnel who showed courage during the military operation. Instituted after independence, these awards were given. Eligible for who? Armed forces personnel and certain civilians. Again, who are those civilians who can get this award? Those civilians who are working under the guidance of army, okay, who are helping and supporting army. For example, in the 1971 war, there was a situation when you have this Pakistan attacked the airstrip in the Gujarat region, and then Indian Air Force cannot take off from there. And there is a possibility that Indian Air Force, if they cannot take off, they will not be able to destroy the bunkers and the military bases that Pakistan had near the border. So the villagers of that village, they worked whole night, whole day, even women folks, and they were able to repair this, what I can say, runway. And the Indian Air Force was able to take off next day. So these civilians are working under guidance of who and armed forces. That means they become eligible to receive these awards. Okay, so armed forces personnel and certain civilians who have shown bravery and courage while working under the guidance or helping the armed forces. Then you have Peacetime Gallantry Award there, which is the highest peacetime award. It is called as Ashok Chakra. Second is called as Kirti Chakra. Third is called as Shaurya Chakra. Okay, it was renamed actually. Okay, maybe somewhere it is written. Instituted in 1952 and renamed in 1967. Renamed means earlier it was called as Ashok Chakra Class 1. Kirti Chakra was called as same. Ashok Chakra Class 2. The Shaurya Chakra was called by what name? Ashok Chakra Class 3 as such. So now what we have done? We have named it, renamed it. Now we have Ashok Chakra, Kirti Chakra and Shaurya Chakra. Why these awards are given? So these are the areas. Counter-insurgency, like Naxalism you have. So Indian Army is not fighting Naxals. It is the Central Armed Police Forces such as CRPF, CISF, NSG and all that. So they would receive this award. Rescue and disaster operations, okay, NDRF example. If they are rescuing people during flood time, right? And if they have shown bravery, courage, if they have lost their life in carrying out rescue operations, then they become eligible to receive this award. Other is, this award can also be awarded not only to living people but also people who died. Okay, so that's why what we're calling it posthumously. What is posthumously? That people can receive this award even after death. So it is given to next of kin, such as wife, mother, father. Okay, these people can receive award on behalf of the person who dies as such. Right. Order wise, now if you look, that entire award you consider together, wartime award and the peacetime award. What is the correct order? So first is Paramveer Chakra. Then we have which one? Ashok Chakra. Then we have Mahavir Chakra. Then Kirti Chakra. Then Veer Chakra. And then Shaurya Chakra. So that is the sequence on order as such. Now question is that how these awards are given, who decides who will receive this award. So first of all, as we know, that recommendations will come from the armed forces itself. Right? If Indian army soldier have shown valiance, courage, who will know about it? Officers, higher officers. So they would recommend the name of these persons. CAPF, them they would recommend the name of the persons, personals, and from police will record this recommend. Once this recommendation is given, there can be a lot of recommendations. These recommendations are then reviewed by a special committee that is formed for it, called as Central Honors and Awards Committee, right? And after this finalization of this award will be done by Central Honors and Award Committee, it would send the recommendation actually to the President of India, and final approval will be given by who? President of India. So ultimately, who is the final this decision maker, that who will receive the award? What should be the answer? Ultimately, it is decided by President of India herself or himself. And important thing is that investiture ceremony that we have discussed, it took place just recently. Announcement of award, however, is made when? Either on Republic Day or on Independence Day as such, right? So announcement is made then, and then later on they carry out investiture ceremony. At many phases it is done. Repeated gallantry recognized through a bar to Chakra. This is very important. Suppose that someone has received Kirti Chakra, right? A person has received Kirti Chakra, and again after several years he committed similar act of bravery, right? So based on his action, he again would be qualified for Kirti Chakra. But we do not provide same award twice to same individual. What we do? We recognize their effort by putting a bar, okay, bar to the chakra. And bar to chakra means a very small chakra. For example, if suppose this is Kirti Chakra, what we do? We create a small model of the Kirti Chakra and provide to him. Okay, so we do not give the same award twice, but we recognize any such kind of effort, similar effort as such. Other thing is that one other difference we have. If you talk about Paramveer Chakra, people who are recipient of Paramveer Chakra, they are awarded when? On a Republic Day or on Independence Day, in front of entire country as such, okay, when the flag is being hoisted or when the parade is being conducted. All other awards, they are given when? In the investiture ceremony that is conducted recently. So because Paramveer Chakra we can say is what? Highest category of award. That's why we give it during the Independence Day or Republic Day as such. That is about the gallantry awards. Then next we have is regarding news was related to the National Disaster Management Authority of India, right? So what they have done? They have created a ministry level plan how to manage disasters. Okay, every ministry need to have a proper plan based on the disaster it is associated with. Like for example, recently we talked about El Nino, right? El Nino will affect which sector? Agriculture sector. What we can experience? Drought. Drought is example of disaster. Which ministry will manage drought? Because it is agriculture related sector, agriculture ministry will manage it. So they need to have what? A proper plan, that if large scale drought occur in large part of India, how do you manage it? Okay, how do you make the life of people easier? How do you ensure that farmers do not have problem in getting their livelihood and all that, right? So that's why NDMA recently launched a drive to strengthen disaster preparedness across which ministries? All the central ministries that you have, agriculture ministry, water resources ministry, right? You have this earth sciences ministry and all that. Part of this entire decision that is taken is part of which mission? We have given Resilient India 2047 vision, and because 2047 we also have decided that India would become which kind of India? Developed countries, Viksit Bharat. So one can become Viksit only if we have resiliency, like because disaster when it happens, it also affect your economic growth. Okay, like for example, recently we just have discussed, if El Nino causes drought like disaster, will economy will be impacted or not? We just have seen economy will be impacted. So if economy is getting impacted, can we become developed country? No. That's why we have to have resilience, so that any kind of disaster we are able to manage it properly as such. Focus on integrating disaster risk reduction into development planning as such. So when you are planning for development, we also have to add this angle that whether it is rural area, whether it is urban area, we have to have approach that we are able to reduce the risk to disaster. Now see, this is a very important point. Two things are there. One is, let us take Bangalore as example. You have heavy rainfall, flood occurs, right? Authorities will respond, try to remove the water, try to make everything normal. That is which kind of approach? Reactionary approach. You are reacting to a disaster, okay, reacting to something that already has happened. What we should do, on the other hand, we should take actions before flood can take place, so that we can reduce the possibility of flood itself, right? So if you have proper well developed drainage system, heavy rainfall take place, water can easily be carried out by through this drainage, possibility of flood is less, right? So that is what we are focusing by NDMA. We are taking pre-action or proactive action, so that the possibility of disaster itself can be minimized. That is what we are calling as resiliency. Okay, we should have capability to tackle any kind of disasters. How will we be able to tackle it? Only if we have capability, right? So that's what is the objective. So develop comprehensive disaster management plan, prepared two type of approach. First is hazard specific, flood, drought, okay, forest fire, for example, heat waves you have. All of these are what? Different type of disaster. So each of the disaster, each of the hazard, ministry should prepare what? A dedicated response framework. It should not be confused that now flood has happened, what need to be done? Or drought has happened, what need to be done? There should be a proper standard operating procedures, SOPs to be followed. This will be guided by, we have brought in an act in 2005. Act is called as Disaster Management Act as such, right? Section 35, hazard specific plan. Two sections we have added. And apart from that, we also have added a section that is Ministry Disaster Management Plan. Right? Many times what happens, like example, flood you take. If flood takes place in the rural areas, will agriculture be impacted or not? Agriculture ministry should involve or not? Yes. But it is a water issue. Which other ministry should come into picture? Water Resources Ministry. Okay, Jal Shakti Ministry that we have today. So many disasters are there which is tackled by not one but several ministries, right? That's why each of the ministries should have their own dedicated plan also. Understand? We are making plan two ways. One is specific to a particular hazard, drought, flood, forest fire. Other is each ministry have their own plan that if this disaster occurs, what will be the roles and responsibility of our ministry. So in the event of flood, Ministry of Water Resources will know that what it has to do. Ministry of Agriculture would also know what it has to do. Ministry of Social Welfare will know what it has to do. Everyone have what? Their roles cut out here. So there is no confusion. There is no blame and this sharing of this, what you can call, blame as such, passing the buck, we can say. Because many times what ministries do, they say that no, it is not our department. Okay, you have to go to that ministry. It is fault of Ministry of Agriculture. It is not fault of Ministry of Water Resources. That will not be done anymore, because everyone have their dedicated responsibilities and roles assigned. So this entire development shows what? A large shift in the disaster management approach itself. Why? Because earlier, if you look, we are focused more on what kind of effort? Relief and response. We are waiting for disaster to take place. After disaster occurs, then we'll react. We'll carry out search operation. We'll carry out rescue operation. Okay, we'll provide relief to the people. For example, if they have lost their farmland, we'll provide them food grains, for example. So all of these are which kind of approach? Reactionary approach. That we are now shedding, we are leaving behind. We are now focusing upon what factors? Prevention, Okay, let not flood come before. Preparedness as well as resiliency, right? Integrates disaster risk reduction into development itself. So, example we can take, we have a city, urban areas, right? A smart city concept you have these days, or you are carrying out expansion of the urban areas. So, when you are carrying out expansion, it is example of what? Development. You are building infrastructure, roads, highways, metros, okay, the settlements and all that. So when you are building and when you are developing, that time itself you will integrate which other approach here? Disaster risk reduction. That means when the new cities you are building, you do ensure that city has enough resiliency that it not get flooded easily just by few hours of rain as such. For example, city has enough green space that heat waves are not able to become a problem here, right? Because if you have no green space, absorption of heat is strong, and that causes what? Heat wave like situation. So when you plan this reduction in the development itself, in the future you will not have to spend a lot of money in carrying out which kind of response, which kind of operation? Relief and response operations, right? So enhances overall sustainability as well as long-term security of people, citizen, country, economy. Imagine people are buying crores and crores rupees of flat, and the basement they park their car. Next day they wake up and what they see? Car is getting a spa, right? Why? Because entire city has flooded. The water has entered into the basement. That is example of development without disaster risk reduction, okay, without proper planning. So that is something which you are trying to avoid here. NDMA planning framework, we discussed two type of plan: hazard specific plan, multiple ministry will address flood, cyclone, earthquake, and heat wave. Second is what we have discussed: ministry level plan. Each ministry will prepare for what? Multiple hazards that it is responsible for. And overall, it ensures coordinated and sector specific preparedness, and overall promotes effective response and resource utilization. Now, briefly, if we talk about the agency, which agency we are talking about? National Disaster Management Authority. So, this agency was established under DM Act 2005. Actually, in 2004, you have tsunami. Okay, so as a reaction against tsunami, government decided to bring some new legislation, new act that can deal with the disaster situation. That's where DM Act was passed. As far as India is concerned, this agency is considered as what? The apex. Apex means the highest level body, highest level agency that you have, which will manage disaster in India as such. Prime Minister is the ex officio chairperson. Okay, this is a previous year UPSC prelims question. Who is the chairperson of the NDMA? What is the answer? PM. Okay, so that is obvious. If PM is the chairperson, can any body you think of which will be higher than that? No. Okay, that's why NDMA is the apex body. Apart from PM, it also has how many members? 9 members. So you have vice chairperson, that many times is the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, Minister of Home Affairs. Formulates policies, plans, and guidelines for disaster management. Coordinates disaster management efforts nationwide. Okay, so for you, disaster management class is complete or not? So we'll discuss NDM in detail in the class itself, in the IAS this subject that we have. They will study in detail structure, framework, how it entire situation works. Now, if you look at few questions from this topic with reference to Jayaprakash Narayan Bird Sanctuary, what is the correct statement? It is India's 100th Ramsar site. True or false? True. It is a natural oxbow lake formed by meandering of Ganga River. True or false? True. It lies along the East Asian Australasian flyway. True or false? False. Which flyway it is part of? Central Asian flyway, right? So, what is the correct answer? A, 1 and 2. Then we have, which of the following best explains the phenomena of stagflation? Okay, in the El Nino topic we have studied stagflation that may arise during El Nino years. A, B, C, or D? B, right? We have discussed stagflation means stagnant growth and inflation. So, high inflation accompanied by slow economic growth as such. So, imagine what is the situation? Economic growth is slow. That means your income is not growing at a rapid pace, right? Because imagine a company you are working at, company is not growing. Will they increase your salary? No. So your income level is reducing. But at the same time, what is high inflation doing? Increasing the prices of commodities. So you have 10,000 rupees income and you are living in a house which costs 5,000 or rent is 5,000. Now rent will increase, your salary is still there. Okay, prices of food will increase, your salary is still the same. What will happen? It creates problems for people as such. Okay, the quality of life overall will go down, deteriorate itself. That's why stagflation is very dangerous for the economy. Then consider the following gallantry awards in India. What is the correct sequence? Remember or forgot? Paramveer Chakra. Then we have Ashok Chakra. First of wartime, first of peacetime. Okay, so Paramveer Chakra, Ashok Chakra. Then what do you have? Second of wartime, second of peacetime. What do we have? Mahavir Chakra, Kirti Chakra. So, what is the correct option? B as such. Right? Then the last is with reference to NDMA, we have discussed. What is the correct statements? Is it a constitutional body? No. What is the term that we use? A statutory body, okay, made by the Act of India, Government of India's Act. What is the correct answer? A, 1 and 2. Right, that's all.